Hey, what's up, guys? This is episode 14, 40 Years and 40 Beers. It's me, as always, my co-host, Joe Massey. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Joe?
Nothing much. You know, I don't have any booze tonight, unfortunately. It is Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm doing lemonade. The sun's got its dick out all week. It's too hot for
It's
that.
out of control.
It's too hot for that.
It's completely out of control. I was outside earlier, and literally I lost 15 pounds in 45 seconds.
Bullets.
So I saw your video this week about Zubilee Zoo. Tell me all about that, how that came about. And I saw about how you were, I don't know, basically like trying to play this game, right? You were trying to beat the game and show it that you were smarter.
Christian or Julia, one of them found the game a couple months ago, and anything. You could guess an object. It could be a doorknob. It could be The Sopranos. It could be a character. He guesses famous YouTubers. So we were always trying to stump him with, but like it's a computer and he's got the whole internet at his disposal. So when he asks questions, he remembers them all and stuff like that. So sometimes it's hard to stump him. And we were playing the other night and I stumped him with Zubilee Zoo. He guessed something, the Pajama Gang, Kids Incorporated. He guessed a couple different things, but they weren't right. So you can, once he gives you an answer, you can either stop or you can keep going and let him try, second time, third time. But then Christian was like, what's Zubilee Zoo? So I put a couple on for him and he was like, Dad, these guys are creepy. And I'm looking like Ben Vereen's character, like the one, I guess the main guy who would be like in a different place and he would like narrate and set up each episode. He definitely.
Like a panther? What the hell was he? A panther or
he
a
was
tiger?
A panther. I think he was some kind of cheetah. Yeah, some kind of cheetah or panther. But
or like purple or something, right?
Yeah, he was like a grayish purple, but he wasn't wrong. Looking through the lens, I guess we were 6, 7, 8-ish when that came out. He's 11 now, and looking through his lens of like what's popular today, it is a little creepy. It is a little weird. You know what I mean? So that was the end of the interaction, that he and I had, and I made the video just about Akinator, which is the game, and the. I
want to stay on track with Zubilee Zoo. So
yes.
After Christian said that, what are your thoughts about Zubilee Zoo? Looking at it now, are you like, you know what? This had some pedophile tendencies. This had some things.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know about that, but like it did occur to me that. Like after I talked to you and we saw a bunch of comments come in, Vinny was saying like it was super popular for us as kids. Being born in the early 80s, Zubilee Zoo coming out in the late 80s, it was something we all watched. It was very popular in our area and probably in lots of parts of America. As I'm looking at the videos and I'm getting like their headshots from IMDb to make that real, it dawned on me like 84 to 86, having this be such a huge hit. I think that may have been the beginning of furries in our society.
The sexual furries? The people who meet up in the costumes?
Yes. Like, think about what came after that. You had Alice in Wonderland, the live action Joan with Scott Baio. Remember, he was like a lizard or something.
I don't know. That shit wasn't on in my house, guys. That's an Italian thing.
No, Alice in Wonderland.
You guys watched that because your mom loved Chachi.
Yeah, well, no. There was a live action Alice in Wonderland in the late 80s with the Jabberwocky and the Mad Hatter and all the different characters from the story. Scott Baio played like a lizard, and a bunch of the characters got dressed up as animals there. Tons of different things, tons of live action where people dressed up as animals. I'm sure you can point to something before Zubilee Zoo, but Zubilee Zoo was like a worldwide phenomenon. For those 2 years that it was on, it was big. And I definitely think that was the beginning of all the cosplay, all the furries, all of...
I think cosplay was around way before that. What if?
You think cosplay was around before 84?
I think so. But what if? What if you're onto something here? What if they were furries and nobody really knew? And they're the ones who went and pitched the show. And they were like, we're going to put this out there for everybody to see. We're going to throw it in everybody's face. And nobody's going to know that we're actually just throwing our sexual pervertities in their face.
I mean...
I think it's for children. What if that's really what happened? I know I'm going on way out there, thinking outside the box here. But what if that's what happened?
No, it's not that much of a stretch. There were 6 of them. For you to, Ben Vereen was the only one, I think, who had a big enough name for himself to maybe say no or I guess turn down the money, so to speak. But there were 6 of them, 2 women and 4 men, white and black. For everybody to just be on board with that, like full makeup, the hair and the whole outfit, like they had to have been into it. They had to have enjoyed that kind of a thing for sure. Like unless the money was so phenomenal, but if the money was like that, there would have been more than 2 seasons. You know what I'm saying?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, for them at the time, the money probably was good, right? It's a daily show. You're paid by the episode. So even at that time, if they're getting, it's 1984, because if they're getting $1,100, $1,200 an episode, that's $5,000 a week. They're making pretty damn good money.
Yeah.
You know, on a children's show.
Yeah. And I never saw them with kids though.
No,
I never saw them do an event, or maybe they brought children. Maybe children were part of some of the episodes. I don't remember it that vividly.
So that's one thing I wanted to talk about, thinking about this, where you're bringing up the furries and how Christian the poor kid was kind of traumatized by it.
But regardless of how they got down after the camera went off, the animals themselves on screen, like what the show presented to the world, they were a little creepy for sure. But go ahead.
So this made me think about other shows that are geared towards kids that, if you think about it, are just downright creepy. Do you remember the Superman or the He-Man cartoon? When he had the blonde hair? And I mean, dude, this was the most like homoerotic thing I've ever seen in my life. If you think about it, think about the tights he was wearing and the friggin' and the bulge that was sticking out, right? And he would prance around all over the place. Why was that on TV? You know, that's just downright creepy. I don't care if, I mean, listen, you know me. I don't care. Each their own. You are your own person. But I mean, why is that on TV at 5, 6, 7 years old? That's downright creepy.
That was a Saturday morning cartoon, because you were having cereal, looking at bulges and stuff. And
exactly.
Another movie I tried to stump him with, but I didn't. He figured it out quick. Was the Garbage Pail Kids. Remember the Garbage Pail Kids movie?
Absolutely. Remember the cards?
Yeah, well, the cards were, it's different. Like
cards came first, I think.
For sure, but they were cartoon cards. The movie, they were like live action, little weird, disgusting midget kids and stuff. It was the movie. One of the questions Aganator had was, is it a children's movie? And I said yes. And I guess because technically it is. And is it scary? And I said no, but it kind of is. Like, as we're discussing it, I'm going to have these up on the screen. I definitely think He-Man wasn't scary. It was inappropriate. I definitely think Garbage Pail Kids is creepy, and Zubilee Zoo is definitely creepy. But I'm agreeing with him now and his perspective years later. I totally did not think that when it aired originally. I was completely
you were into it. You were just thought you were
Zoo. Yeah. Yeah, I never got that sense. I did, despite the fact that it's my favorite movie of all time. I did get a little creeped out at the witch's monkeys in The Wizard of Oz. They freaked me out a little bit when I was a kid.
But they weren't like inappropriate. You know what I mean? The monkeys weren't inappropriate anyway.
Zubilee Zoo might only be inappropriate, knowing what we know now about the way things are with furries and people pretending to be non-human things. It wasn't. Do you think our parents felt oddly about Zubilee Zoo in the 80s? I don't think so.
No, because nobody thought about it, but knowing what we know now. See, look, my mind's going, you know, a little.
I'm saying to you. This is what I'm saying.
Had a little
break it down.
Had a little Quaalude, a little Tibet before the show. What are you saying? They were trying to subliminally turn the kids into furries?
I don't know what I'm saying. I'm saying there's a possibility that Zubilee Zoo was the genesis of furries in modern society. It could be a stretch. I could be spot on, somewhere in the middle. I have zero proof, but I gotta get you to see some of the Alice in Wonderland stuff. And I'm sure there's a million other late 80s, early 90s live action where people dressed up as different characters. I think, like, you see, there's memes about how traumatizing Neverending Story was. There's memes all over Facebook about how traumatizing when, what's his name? Arturo? Or what the kid's name when he's sinking in the quicksand?
With the horse. With,
horse.
My God, with one of our fans.
Sebastian and all like that. Like, there's a bunch of memes online about how there's pieces of Neverending Story that were traumatizing to the young kids who watched it at the time. Like, I guess as adults or older children, they're making fun of it now. But there were a lot of weird animals and stuff like that there too. But it wasn't, Zubilee Zoo was the most popular one where there were clearly humans dressed up like animals. It was a children's show too. It wasn't like Never Ending Story was something that could be enjoyed by the entire family. And even if the makeup or the costumes or the graphics weren't great at that point in time, the intent was not for it to be a joke. It was not for it to be like a children's daytime television special. The intent was that the guy looked like he was part of the wall, or the labyrinth where the hands were coming out and everything looked really creepy. The intent was for it to be a little bit on the scary side, but for it to come off as real. Zubilee Zoo was the only thing where they were like, dog, there's 6 adults dressed up as foxes and cockatoos and fucking kangaroos and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if cosplay was around much earlier than 84. I don't know if I can be convinced of that. I have to see some stats. But
even moving on from that, from the furry, from the cosplay, we were talking about what's traumatizing. You know, this is traumatizing. The Never Ending Story is traumatizing. You know what's traumatizing that was friggin' made recently within the last 10, 15 years is the friggin' Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny Depp.
The one with Johnny Depp, yeah.
Have you ever sat through that thing? The whole time I have my kids like this because I'm afraid the freaking Willy is going to grab them and run off.
Did you see it in the theater?
Yes.
I forget what year it came out.
I don't think my kids were even born yet.
I was just going to say, I don't think we had kids yet because I remember April and I were alone when we saw it in the theater. Is it the Franklin Institute? They have the Tuttleman Omniverse, that bubble?
Yeah. The
IMAX bubble at Franklin Institute. We saw it there.
It's the most horrifying thing I've ever seen in my life.
Like, it's even worse when it's in 4 dimensions and it takes up half of the building. So we were late, and the tickets, you know, like in a movie theater, you don't get assigned seating, right? So you're just guaranteed 2 seats.
Well, you do today. You do today, Bess.
Well, yes. Yeah, but not back then you didn't. So we had seats. But the 2 empty seats that we identified as it was dark and we showed up late were not next to each other. So I don't know if you've ever been there, and I'll try to get an image of it while we're talking. But there are carpet steps. You know, like there's a center row of seats, and then there's 2 on the sides, and there's 2 aisles with carpet steps in between. We had to sit on the steps just so we could be together. So we're sitting on the steps in the Tuttleman Theater looking up like this at the giant dome. And then the first thing you see on the screen is all the little kids start singing that weird chant and they catch on fire and stuff like that in the very beginning. Like the weird teeth pulling with the dentist and stuff like that. That was definitely...
The book's insane. The book is like really dark. It was more for like the book than the one they made with Gene Wilder.
I've never read the book, and Gene Wilder's was definitely a children's film. And Wonka, the one with Timothée Chalamet, whatever the frick his name is, I enjoyed that very much, and that's absolutely a children's movie. But the Johnny Depp one was super dark, and it was definitely not a kid's film at all.
Interesting fact about the original Willy Wonka movie with Gene Wilder. The part where he walks out and
he rolls
and falls forward, that was his idea. He literally said, if I can't do that, I'm not doing the movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the script. And the producers, director are looking at him. They're like, why the hell do you want to do that? And he said, because if that's the first thing I do from that point in the movie, you know, you can't trust anything that I do. I was like, man.
That was, I wonder if Kaiser Sose came from that.
Kaiser Sose came from, oh, you mean the limp?
The limp turned into a normal walk at the end when he's going to the police station.
Yeah. So you think maybe the Kevin Spacey was like, that was his inspiration? Maybe like, you know.
Just the walk part of it. Or it could have been the director or the writer's inspiration. I saw that same clip or article where he was saying, like, I have to come out limping, and then I have to do a somersault, and then I have to appear to be perfectly fine and not need the cane. And yeah, like you said, they need to know, the audience needs to know that I'm shady and I can't be trusted from that point forward, which is what Kevin Spacey's character was. He was shady and couldn't be trusted at all. And he had that similar walk at the end. I had read that article about Gene Wilder's character, but it just dawned on me they could be connected. But
so Verbal Kent / Kaiser Sose and Willy Wonka could basically be synonymous with each other. They could kind of be inspiration, Verbal Kent, Kaiser Sose, the inspiration for who wrote that movie his inspiration could have been Willy Wonka.
Again,
if you think about it, it's the same character, right? The whole deception thing with the walk is in reverse. That's all. But if you think about it, you're going from the beginning to the end, right? And in Willy Wonka, he's establishing that you can't trust me at all from the very beginning, where it's reversed with the usual suspects. So Verbal Kent shows that at the end. They're essentially the same character in reverse.
The movie's different and the plot of the film is different, but the characters have a lot of similarities. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Wow. How about that? That's interesting. I never thought about that. So I'm obsessed with a few movies, and I know like a lot of things about the background. Is there any movies that you know about that you're like, oh, did you know this about this movie when this was made? And is there anything that you really know about?
The only one I truly know of is it's either an ostrich or a midget hanging themselves in the background in the forest of The Wizard of Oz.
Well, I just mean like, for example, like the movie Halloween, right? Like, so I love the movie Halloween. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's absolutely iconic. And there's a ton of stories about the making of that movie. Like, one, it was an independent film. All right. So
really, the first one?
Yeah, John Carpenter basically had to finance that himself. So there are, I believe, besides the police car, and I could be wrong about this, besides the police car, I believe that the two cars that are in the movie, the car that's stolen by Michael Myers, and then the car that's driven by Annie Brackett with the girls in it, I believe those are John Carpenter's cars. Right? The half of the wardrobe belonged to John Carpenter and his wife. They outfitted the girls and the guys in his clothes and her clothes, right? They had so little money, and it's one of the scariest movies of all time, right? There's no blood in the movie. There's no blood. They couldn't afford it. Think about all the killings, all the stuff. Think about it. You don't see it. The only time you see blood, I think, is there's a little bit of fake blood on the grave headstone when it's in the bed, the Judith Myers headstone. I think that's the only time. But like the killing in the kitchen when he lifts the guy up and stabs him through the stomach, like all you see is him impaled against the wall. There's no blood. Yeah. Another crazy story. When John Carpenter turned it in, he didn't have the score. That wasn't there. He turned it into a movie executive, hopefully in the studio would buy it. And they said it was the biggest piece of shit they've ever seen in their life.
Wait a minute. He just didn't have that one actual song or no music at all.
I believe like he didn't have any music at all.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then he put that in.
Again, if he was independent and he couldn't afford blood, he couldn't afford to copyright a song either.
Exactly. Yeah. So he did it himself. He locked himself in a studio and got all fucked up. And as he was watching it on the big screen, he's like, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Could you imagine? Who knows what he was on? It was the 70s.
Wow. So he came up with that and played that and recorded that himself.
Yeah, because they told him it was the biggest piece of shit they've ever seen. And then he was thinking about, how can I make this better? How can I make this better? And he added the score, and that was it. Everything else is history.
I mean, that's, we were talking on, we just did a reel about Karate Kid and Back to the Future and the iconic moments from them. But without that music, I would agree that it's a completely different film. I don't know if I would go so far as to call it a piece of shit, but absolutely. Even if there was other music, there was more instrumentation and, popular songs from the era. Without that piano, it's a completely different film.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, it's Jaws too, for example. So you see Jaws, right, or no?
Yeah. No, I've never seen Jaws. I've seen bits and pieces of Jaws. I know I'm gonna get kicked off the pod, but it's like it's so cliche now, and I have trouble appreciating the poor graphics
Oh God, you're so horrible. But you can watch The
nowadays.
Godfather, right? You can watch The Godfather.
Yeah, I watched The Godfather. I mean, come on. But Jaws is another one.
Well, where I'm going with this is there's a lot of things about Jaws, right? Like, again, Jaws is one of my favorite movies. So in the beginning of the movie, right, you'll see it eventually. Probably you won't because you're a crumb bum. All right. And the beginning of the movie, basically, there's somebody swimming out, in the bay, in the ocean, in the inlet, whatever you want to call it, and they get sucked under. Well, the whole great part about Jaws is you don't really see the shark until the end. There's no reveal until like the last, let's say, like 25 minutes of the movie. All right. Maybe half hour. So that was all an accident. You were supposed to see how big the shark was right from the get-go. The shark wasn't working. They never knew if they were going to be able to get the shark out of the water. But they knew when they were filming the scene, they could get the fin to come across. And it ended up making the movie 500 times better. There's another scene in the movie where they're all drinking, right, on the boat. There's three fishermen. There's Richard Dreyfuss. I forget the actor. I think it's Robert Shaw, who played Quint, and, my God, Chief Brody, who is... That'll come to me. But they're on the boat underneath in like the galley area drinking, and they're acting like they are sauced, talking about all kinds of shit, talking about their scars from fish they got bitten by, tiger sharks. Turns out they were really hammered drunk while they were filming.
Wait, was this also an independent film?
Jaws? No, it was Steven Spielberg. Yeah, no. But it turns out, like you found out from stories later, they were actually hammered drunk when they were filming the scene.
I mean, back then, unless you're pouring the beer out and putting water or apple juice in there, like I guess they were drinking it. And a couple
No, I mean, usually it was just colored water, flavored water, but they decided to get drunk to make the scene a little bit better.
Yeah. Authenticity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure there's a story behind every film. I'm sure there's, if you talk to, before they all died, a couple of the Munchkins, they had stories about the Wizard of Oz. I'm sure everybody has, all of the iconic films have to have come with a couple great stories.
Wait a minute. I just thought about something. Was the lion a fairy? Was he a fairy? So does it go all the way back to 1939, Mess?
It might go all the way back to 1939. You're just blowing my mind with the whole,
These poor Munchkins. What was this lion doing to these poor Munchkins?
No, I mean, but again, okay, so I guess anything's possible.
So was he the starter? Hold on. Hear me out first.
I'm not going to let you tarnish the name of the Wizard of Oz on this platform.
I'm just tarnishing the Cowardly Lion. That's all. He was a bad actor.
No.
All right.
But again, it goes back to what I said a few minutes ago about it wasn't supposed to be a man dressed up as a lion.
All right, but real fast, just hear me out with this furry thing. All right. So this is the start. All right. The Cowardly Lion, all right, is a furry. That's why he wanted to dress up in the suit. They originally probably just had him in some kind of face paint and some other like normal, maybe like, regular man gear or something, right? He already had the suit at home and he brought it. Okay, hold on, I'm not done. Then there's all these little kids playing the Munchkins. This is the start. Did he get that? And now he teaches them how to be furries. And now there's this little furry army that goes out into the world. And that was the children.
They were actual midgets. They were adults. They were all actual adult midgets. And
well, what if that's where it started in the midget community from the Cowardly Lion?
No, I'm not accepting that as even remotely possible.
Sometimes the outside the box idea is what actually happened.
No, last episode you said the most sensical, or what'd you say? The most logical explanation is the one that there is. You said that about Tony getting whacked by New York.
That's in cinema. We're talking about real life now. I know it's on a film set, but we're talking about the Cowardly Lion spreading his deviance all over the rest of the world.
There were people dressed up in Wizard of Oz, just like there were people dressed up in Alice in Wonderland.
You backed yourself into a corner with this one.
No, I didn't. I already explained why Wizard of Oz is unacceptable for the connection you're trying to make. What else?
Did you and the lion have a conversation?
There were three.
How do you know that this isn't correct? This isn't true.
Hold on. What did I say? I said Zubilee Zoo. I said Alice in Wonderland and Never-Ending Story. So Never-Ending Story, Alice in Wonderland, and The Labyrinth, people dressed up as animals and monsters and fuzzy things, but it was meant to be taken seriously. It was meant to provide the illusion that this thing on screen was actually real. That wasn't Zubilee Zoo. Zubilee Zoo was people dressed up as animals to perform on stage. It's completely different. Those are two completely different things. So,
fair enough. Okay. All right. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
I'm not saying that spending 3 months in the suit didn't tickle his fancy, but it's not the genesis of furries in modern day society. I think that it has to point back to something. And I think the Zubilee Zoo is as strong of an answer as anything anybody else could come up with.
So, but here's the other thing. When you were watching Zubilee Zoo, did you in your mind say, this is a guy dressed up as a cheetah or a panther? Were you not even thinking about that? Was he just a panther?
You didn't know that they were human beings because at 6 years
I knew there was a human being on The Wizard of Oz. You know what I mean?
But the intent was that's why I just said I can't go back and watch Jaws now, because it gets ruined as you get older and you know the special effects aren't up to par. The intent was for it to be an actual lion. That's why it was harder to do with an animal, but that's why the Tin Man looked much more realistic. The intent was this guy was made of straw. This guy was made of tin. The trees could actually talk. The monkeys could actually fly. That's why they weren't humans dressed up as monkeys. They were little things. So they might have been actual monkeys. I don't even know. But they didn't have the technology or the ability to pull it off well enough. But the intent was to present like they were real. I believe that was not the intent with Zubilee Zoo.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's move on.
Going back to what you said about the awesome stories and how one little thing could make a change in making the movie great or horrible. We did a reel the other day about what was more impactful also in the 80s, a Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid, or the original Back to the Future. And I think I think the DeLorean, what was the date that Doc set on what's the name in the first movie? I think that was
October something 1955.
No, the one that just happened a couple years ago. He set one in the future as well. I think that date always came up on the internet from time to time. I think that flux capacitor comes up from time to time. The DeLorean comes up from time to time. Even Michael J. Fox's sneakers from the second one that he rides on the hoverboard, I think they've been sold recently at auctions and stuff like that. But I would agree that the first Karate Kid made a bigger impact and was more popular. Forget about Cobra Kai. Up until the time Cobra Kai was invented, I would also agree that Karate Kid was a bigger film. And Jason Mango put a comment that wax on, wax off is used way more nowadays than Great Scott, or what was the other one? I guess flux
capacitor.
Yeah.
But is that because of Cobra Kai?
No, I can think of a million times myself that you've quoted wax on, wax off.
Yeah, possibly. I mean,
every time you try to learn a new skill, you teach it to someone else. Wax on, wax off, and paint the fence. If you're actually painting and waxing, or if you're doing something different, those terms come up. And maybe it's to make fun of Mr. Miyagi, but Mr. Miyagi as a character and his lines from the movie have been quoted much more over the last 20, 30 years than anything from Back to the Future.
Yeah, I agree. I guess you're right. I mean, you know what?
Maybe it was to make fun. I mean, let's be fair. Maybe it was to make fun.
I had a Mr. Miyagi reference today.
What'd you say?
I caught a fly out of midair with my two fingers. Completely accidental. I went to snatch it with my whole hand, and as it was flying by, it landed in my two fingers.
Okay.
I went up to the guy I share the office with. I was like, "Look, I Mr. Miyagi this fly," and he's like, "No way, no, you didn't." I went, "Well, it was an accident. I actually went to grab it with my whole hand, and it just landed in these two fingers."
I forgot about catching the fly with the chopsticks. I'm sure millions of people tried to pretend to do that. for the next decade after that film came out. And the kick, didn't you ever do the kick when you were a kid?
The crane kick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to try to do it on the beach in the sand. I wasn't trying to do it on the stump.
I would try to kick Jeffrey all the time. I think hands down, leaps and bounds, it's Karate Kid for sure.
So what are the iconic lines from, besides wax on, wax off, right? Because I don't think either of them really have too many iconic lines. Like, you have wax on, wax off, right?
That's probably it. But that's my point, is like, I don't know if that in and of itself.
They both have great soundtracks.
But like you're saying, how this one thing could turn the film. So the piano getting added to the score turned Halloween. The fin being the only part of the shark you could see until the very end turned Jaws. I don't know if it necessarily was the wax on, wax off, paint the fence segment of the movie, or if it might have been the kick at the end. But there would appear to be one or two things from that film that we still bring up on a routine basis in 2025 that could have helped turn it.
Okay.
I feel the same way about Back to the Future. I think without Great Scott, and without like pouring the beer into the flux capacitor, and without the cool shoes and the hoverboard, although that was the second movie, I feel like if that car was different, it could have turned the film, maybe in a worse way. I feel like the decision to have the butterfly doors and certain things, turned the film. So that was the connection I was making, is like, we did a reel the other day about what was a more impactful movie, period. But when you started talking about key elements that could turn the film, I feel like wax on, wax off, if we're still talking about it in 2025, it had to have been in that category.
So here's a question for you. What movie line would you say you have used more than any in your life? Even just like normal conversation. Somebody's sitting across from you, and it has to relate.
So
I know what mine is right off the bat.
Jokingly, and maybe it only relates because somebody says leave it, but leave the gun, take the cannoli comes up all the time. But that's more of a joking thing. I said it a couple episodes ago. It's business, Sonny, and he's taking it very personal. Me and Uncle Dave say that all the time when we talk about the guys in the garage or the insurance companies that we talk to on the phone. Me and my buddy Dave and Mike used to say it all the time at Pep Boys as well. When someone can't draw that line between business and personal, I use that all the time. I think it's business, Sonny, and he's taking it very personal is probably at the top of the list for me. And leave the gun, take it, and go. They were both from Godfather 1.
Mine is, and it's a classic. Somebody's going to a store. Somebody's going to get a sandwich. They're going to get a beer. Hey, you talk. Give me two. That's got to be one.
Talk to me, Goose. That's one.
Talk to me, Goose. I
still say that. I say that to the kids often.
Yeah, that's one. Absolutely.
There's got to be more if you sit down and think about it. But off the top of the head, getting caught off guard, I would say it's those three. It's leave the gun, it's business, and talk to me, Goose.
Yeah, talk to me, Goose. That's funny. Yeah, back to the Future. You know, the only iconic lines in that are like what? Great Scott.
I think that's it, dog. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. Well, that was Marty's version of Great Scott. That was the whole thing. I think that's why Karate Kid wins in that particular conversation.
What was the better franchise overall? Karate Kid or Back to the Future? Because Back to the Future 2 at the time was unbelievable.
With the TV and the hoverboards, and I would. I think that's a completely different question that might go the other way.
I remember when I saw Back to the Future 2, and I was just like, this is one of the most incredible. Is this what it's really going to be like? And let's be honest, it wasn't that far off. I mean, yeah, we don't have flying cars, but
the TV in the living room is very close to where we're at.
You know, we don't hydrate. We can't hydrate the pizza, but we can throw it in the air fryer for 5 minutes and it's done. You know what I mean?
But 1 and 2 are the franchise. I don't think anybody recognizes 3 as part of the franchise. It was like Ninja Turtles 3, like when they became samurais or whatever. Like the whole Western cowboy element didn't do it for me with the Back to the Future series. Like you came off of such a phenomenal sequel, and then you put them with Mad Dog in the Old West. Like that, to me, that was such a horrible way to wrap
Well,
up the trilogy.
hold on. If you remember, it was actually a great way to wrap up the trilogy because what you already referenced to when Doc Brown was putting the years in the first one, he actually he went back and talked about it. He put the year in like 1855 or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I can go back and see my ancestors. Blah, blah, blah. So they already set the groundwork for that to be done in episode one.
His ancestors could have been witches in Salem. There could have been so many other Doc Brown relatives from the early ages besides cowboys. I'm just saying
think about it. They had to get back without having any access to electricity, plutonium. I mean, nothing. I think that was the genius in it. Having to use the train.
I'm not saying that, yes. So the way that the Avengers directors figured out time and the timeline and how all the different worlds would ever intertwine and make sense from that perspective, the way that they pieced together the eggs that they dropped in the first two films and how to get home without electricity, that was smart. But I'm just saying, in general, as a movie, there are some Westerns that work. That one didn't. And I think that coming off of such a futuristic and phenomenal number two, they wanted to go the exact opposite direction. And like you said, no electricity, no rules, Wild Wild West, everything is crazy.
Wild West.
It just didn't, I don't think it worked. I think it may have been, this is a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. It may have been the worst number three in any movie ever.
All right, fair enough. So I want to transition because I have a incredible series recommendation.
Oh, you were telling me about this. But not a lot of people are on that, cuz.
So I think a lot more people are now because I believe you can stream it on Apple Plus as well.
Oh, okay.
So everybody here, well, not everybody, but your boy Uncle Joe and Bobby here, we are huge From fans. From is a show on MGM Plus. It's on Apple TV. It is out of this world. Well, there's another show on the channel. It just started. It's 4 episodes in. Mary Louise Parker's in it. And there's a lot of, no names, but she's the lead. Mary Louise Parker from Weeds.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Institute. It's based on a book or novels by Stephen King.
Really?
Yeah. And so far, it is really, really good. So I try not to give anything away here. The premise is basically there are kids who are gifted, okay? And they basically get snatched from their homes in the middle of the night and brought to a facility, which they wake up in what they think is their bedroom. They wake up in a carbon copy of their bedroom. Well, it turns out they're in this place called the Institute. Well, because they're going to start running all these tests on them, some of them are what are called TKs, right? Telekinesis. They can move things. Some of them are what are called TPs, telepathic.
Hold on. I thought you meant gifted like Rain Man. You're talking like X-Men?
No, so right now it's just TKs, telekinesis, where they can move things, or TPs, telepathic. So they bring them in and they're going to start running these tests on them. They tell them they're going to be doing it for the good of their country, blah, blah, blah. Because they're doing this, we're going to treat you like adults. You can earn tokens if you do what we say. They got cigarette machines in there. They give them booze. They give them everything they want.
Wait, are they 10 or 18?
So they're all different ages. The lead is this kid who's actually ridiculously intelligent, and that's a part of the plot, but I don't want to give that away.
Okay.
So he's 14. He's ridiculously intelligent. And he comes in, and they're in what's called the front half. And once they go through a series of tests, which are basically like torture for these poor kids, after they graduate, they go to the back half. Well, nobody knows what the back half is. They've never seen anybody.
What, the building?
It's called the back half of the program.
Oh, the program. Okay.
Yeah. So nobody really knows what's going on around this institute. But you find out that there's also some people in the town, maybe like a homeless person, I don't want to give anything away, but she might be telepathic. Everybody thinks she's crazy. Turns out she might actually be telepathic.
I was going to ask, is that Mary Louise Parker or is she the principal?
No, Mary Louise Parker runs the institute.
I was going to say, okay, yeah.
So this is a show I came across that's really, really good. I highly recommend that. My next recommendation, if you haven't seen it, it was number 1 on Netflix, so everybody probably has, is Untamed. If you haven't seen Untamed yet with Eric Bana, that's phenomenal.
Hold on. Are you 4 episodes in, or is the Institute only 4 episodes published?
That would be affirmative on both, amigo.
Okay. Untamed, I haven't heard about that. Uncle Dave I think it's old, or they may be done a couple seasons and we're not sure if they're doing another one, but Animal Kingdom.
I've seen Animal Kingdom. I've watched that. That's phenomenal.
Uncle Dave and my Aunt Janine, they just started it a little bit ago.
It's a little crazy. Ellen Barkin's like 70. She's still dressed as ridiculously sexy as hell. She's kind of like
raving about it though.
She's kind of like incestuous with her boys. It's a little odd.
And that's on Netflix too?
Yeah. But they're a crime family.
I just started. He was telling me about how they wash the money through the fake properties that they have. I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah.
I can't believe Tony and them didn't get wrapped up in anything like that. I just started The Bear season 4. The Bear is phenomenal, cuz. Have you watched The Bear?
Yeah, I watched The Bear.
Dog, the Christmas Eve episode in season 2 was identical to my house.
Really? It's a nightmare?
Minus the attempted murder. My grandmother's house on Christmas Eve, my mom's mom, it was just like that. The screaming and the yelling, but it was so well done. It was unbelievable. It was so spot on for certain families. It was just so authentic. It was unbelievable. I was a fan from the pilot. I just so happened to really, really enjoy that episode. That's their Pine Barrens. But I just started season 4, and I've never said to myself, like, this is a whack episode, or this is slow, or like, I call him Lip. Lip, he's so great with the way, like, you could see the stress in his face and on his body every time he's on camera. It's so wild. Like, The Bear is such a great movie. TV show.
Yeah, it is. It is, absolutely. Well, this was a great episode. I think we got a lot in, talked about a lot of movie stuff, a lot of series stuff. We're really excited for Friday's episode. Don't want to give too much away.
Couple things happening.
We are going to have a very, very well-known local director, film creator from the area. If you look behind me, you might get a little hint of what movie he may have.
Yeah.
See that? So we're going to have a film director, creator on Friday. Can't wait for that. Everybody tune in.
And I don't know when we can officially start really, really talking about it, but you and I, we started a movie and TV podcast at the beginning of the year, and over the summer, we were actually in our first movie.
Yes, absolutely. We officially have our first IMDb credits.
Yeah.
So we are, officially
on both of those fronts with the special interview and with us being able to reveal more about the movie that we're in.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Thanks, guys.
Guys, I'll talk to you later, Mo.